Today's recipe is a Belgian chocolate butter truffle. Working with chocolate can sometimes be a bit tricky, but I'm so happy that the guy who taught me, the gentleman who taught me chocolate over 35 years ago, showed me completely how to do it by hand. We didn't have any fancy digital thermometers or gadgets, so that allows me to teach you the same way that I got it taught over 35 years ago. So let's do it. Before we start making these chocolates, we gotta go through a few points. Number one, you need to use real chocolate. It's very simple. Look on the ingredients list. If it has any vegetable fat in, it's not real chocolate. So the only fat in there should be cocoa butter, no vegetable fats. So use pure chocolate. In order to work with chocolate, we need to respect some temperatures. That's the temperature of the ingredients, temperature of the chocolate, but also the temperature of the room we're gonna make it in. Probably gonna be the kitchen. So we're looking for a kitchen that's somewhere between 18 to 20 degrees Celsius or 65 to 70 Fahrenheit. The next thing is the ingredients always at room temperature, and we'll deal with the temperature of the chocolate as we make the recipe. We're not going to use a thermometer. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to use our own body temperature as a guidance for our temperature of the chocolates. I'll teach you as we go along in the recipe. For today's recipe, I'm going to use two different types of chocolate. They're both the same brand, so both Belgian chocolates, but one's 54% cacao content, the other one's 70%. I'm going to use the 54% one for in the filling for the center, and I'm going to use the more bitter one for the outside. You can use any chocolate you want. If you're a really big fan of dark chocolate, bitter chocolate, just use the bitter one for both the center and the outside. Then we're going to flavor it with some pure hazelnut paste. This is Italian hazelnut paste, which is the best. If you can't find hazelnut paste, almond paste or almond butter works as well. Just make sure that's 100% pure. We got some sweetened condensed milk. We got some vanilla extract. We got some unsalted butter. And we got some cocoa powder. The cocoa powder is unsweetened cocoa powder. If you look for it, look it up online. It's called alkalized cocoa powder. It's got a beautiful color. It's got a nice flavor, and it's the best for coating chocolates and working with in the kitchen. I'm going to start by melting 400 grams of dark chocolate. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way in a bain-marie on the cooker, on the hob. You can do it in the microwave, just do it in short bursts so it doesn't burn. Now I'm going to melt this until it's about 45 to 50 degrees Celsius, which is 110, 120 Fahrenheit. I need to do that to melt all the cocoa crystals inside the chocolate. Next, I got 250 grams of unsalted butter. And to that I'm gonna add half a tin or 200 grams of sweetened condensed milk. You'll find the details of the recipe in the description below. Next, I'm gonna add 50 grams of my hazelnut paste. Make sure you always stir the hazelnut paste as the oil tends to float on top. Same for almond butter as well. So 50 grams of hazelnut paste. And we're also gonna add a little bit of vanilla extract. Okay, we're gonna take our mix and we're gonna make this creamy. In our mixer I'm using the, I tend to call this the butterfly. And I'm just gonna do this on a low speed. And like I said, my butter was room temperature, so was my hazelnut paste, and so was my condensed milk. And that's very important. We don't want to have it too cold, otherwise when we add the chocolate, we're going to have a problem. Neither do we want it too warm, otherwise the filling won't be firm enough for us to actually form or pipe the truffles onto our tray. So How are we going to check the temperature of the chocolate if we don't have a thermometer? Obviously, if you do have one, use one. You'll find all the details, all the temperatures in the description. But we're going to use our own body temperature as a guidance. Our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius or 98.5 Fahrenheit, and that's our guidance. We've melted the chocolate to between 45 and 50 degrees Celsius or 110 and 120 Fahrenheit. So how are we going to check this? So very simple, with the back of your finger. I'm going to just slightly touch the chocolate. And our body temperature is 37. So if this feels slightly warm, it's above 37. If it feels slightly cold, it's below 37. If it feels neutral and I don't feel anything, it's 37. So this now feels a little bit warm. So I know I'm somewhere between that 45 to 50 Celsius. But obviously, if you do have a thermometer, you can use it. So our chocolate is at the right temperature for melting all the cacao crystals or cocoa butter crystals. What we need to do now, before we add it to our, this is basically a buttercream. Before we add it to that, it's too hot now, it would melt the buttercream. We need to cool it down to around 30 to 32 degrees Celsius or 85 to 90 Fahrenheit. All we can do is just leave it here for 10-15 minutes, stir it, check it again, and then add it to the buttercream if it's cold enough. So you can just, if you want to, you can keep stirring it. Or what I tend to do is just scrape it onto the sides. The sides will cool down faster. And then 2-3 minutes later, just scrape the sides back down and give it a good stir. With chocolate, it's also very important to keep stirring it vigorously almost, so that all the ingredients are nicely mixed. And I'm talking the cocoa butter and the cocoa mass, who tend to separate from each other if you don't stir it enough. Okay, let's check our temperature again. The same trick. Back of the finger. Yeah, and this now feels slightly cold. So I know that's less than 37. I'm pretty sure that this is somewhere around 30-32 Celsius or 85-90 Fahrenheit. We're gonna add this now to our buttercream whilst we stir it. I'm gonna switch on my mixer on a low speed. And now I'm gonna carefully add my chocolate. So take this butterfly out. So our filling is nice and creamy, and it's got the correct consistency to shape it into truffles. This is done by using a piping bag, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, I've got a piping bag with a round piping tube. I've got a tray. This is actually, I've got a spare tray from a fridge, and I've lined it with grease-proof paper. And there we're gonna pipe our truffles on. I'm gonna put my filling into the piping bag. Don't want to make it too full. Best way to use a piping bag is to hold it close with one hand, and that's also the hand I'm going to squeeze with, and I'm going to use the other hand as the guidance for the piping tube. I'm just going to hold the piping tube at the correct height I want the truffle to be, just straight like that, and then just give it a gentle squeeze, and then just keep squeezing until you got the correct thing, and then just round it off. Again, just hold it the thickness of your truffle and just squeeze, and then go around it off. And like with everything, you just need to practice this. So our chocolate centers or truffle centers are shaped, and now we need to let them set, or the chocolate needs to harden. The best way of doing this, you can do this if you have a cold room, anywhere below 18 degrees Celsius or 65 Fahrenheit. Just put them there for a few hours. I would say 4 to 5 hours minimum. But obviously you can set them in the fridge. The only thing is you can't leave them in the fridge too long. Chocolate has a bad habit of absorbing all the smells of the fridge. So if we're gonna be putting them in the fridge, then only for maximum 1 hour, and then we're gonna finish them off. So our truffles have been setting in the fridge. These have been setting for 45 minutes. You can go up to an hour, but please no longer. Like I say, chocolate will take on the flavors from whatever's in the fridge. And also you're gonna get condensed on them, which isn't good. So look, they come easily off the greaseproof paper and they're nice and firm. I've got my other dark chocolate here. Again, same principle. I've melted it until between 45 and 50 degrees Celsius, which is 110 and 120 Fahrenheit. We know because we've done the same test again. Back of the finger, it feels a little bit warm. So that's warmer than body temperature, it's fine. And then we've just let it here, and then we've just let it stand here, and then every couple of minutes give it a good stir until it's cooled down to ideally between 30 and 32 degrees Celsius or 85 and 90 Fahrenheit. And that's what we have now. The best way is doing this by hand. So I've given my hands a good clean. And then just put a little bit of chocolate in your hands, on the chocolate and in your hands, and then just coat them. We don't want a thick coating, we just want to have some chocolate all around. And then and the ideal way of doing this is with 2 people. Then you put them in the cocoa powder. Yeah, just a little bit of chocolate and coat them. If you do it with a fork, it works as well, but the coating tends to be too big. So just coat them with your hands, with your fingers. A little bit of chocolate. And there's another benefit of doing it like that, because your hands have a certain warmth. It's not necessarily gonna warm up the chocolate, but it'll also stop the chocolate from setting too fast. And then with the fork, just give them a stir in the cocoa powder. But like I say, ideally do that with 2 people. And then just take them out with the fork and drop them on the paper for setting. We can just take them out of the cocoa powder. Okay, we're gonna let them set for about 5-10 minutes. They will be nice and firm. The chocolate was nicely tempered. The centers were quite cold from being in the fridge. So yeah, and then we're just gonna pick them up and then we can put the rest of the cocoa powder back in the bowl. And that's it, our chocolate truffles are done. Just give them a little bounce to let the excess cocoa powder drop off. And then just stack them and they're ready. And there you have it, Belgian chocolate butter truffle with hazelnut paste. Thank you for watching.